Hey everybody, hope you are doing well, and welcome back to another Lords of the Fallen challenge run. Today, I'm going to see if I can beat Lords of the Fallen as Pieta, she of the Blessed Renewal. So what this means is that when I beat Pieta, I can only use her sword, spells, and armor for the rest of the run. I go with the Radiant Purifier class because Pieta's sword scales purely with Radiance and it does pure holy damage, and it's also insanely powerful, so I am super stoked for this run. And I'm not going to waste any time here, so we're jumping straight into the fight with Pieta, or the quote-unquote Pieta, the Pieta wannabe. Little does she know that I am the real Pieta. The woman cosplaying as Pieta goes down pretty easily, and after collecting her remembrance, I make my way into Skyrest Bridge. I make my way to the Shrine of the Future Mother, where I spend the next few minutes picking up as many umbral scroungings as I can. I don't know how to pronounce that. I think I'm right with that. But I currently cannot get her equipment because I need the Bowl of Revelations, which is found a little bit into Pilgrim's Perch. So in order for me to get there, I have to get past Sister Della. And with Sister Dallas defeated, I can now make my way into Pilgrim's Perch. And it's here, while I'm in Umbral, I can pick up the Bowl of Revelations. I make my way back to Skyrest Bridge, where I purchase all of Pieta's armor, weapons, and spells. And I look pretty damn cool. With my new sword in hand, I make my way to Grilendo, where I get my sword and my catalyst up to +2. And then I take on the Mistress of Hounds. It's here where I use Pieta's spell for the first time, and damn, that is some really good damage. The Mistress of Hounds did fight pretty hard this time around, but thankfully with a few more holy strikes, she goes down. With the Mistress of Hounds taken care of, I make my way into the beautiful Forsaken Fen, where I take on, the Congregator of Flesh. Now this fight went as well as it usually does, and a few seconds later I'm sorry, what? His health bar looks pretty unhealthy to me, so not really sure how that happened. So because of that insanely disrespectful move, I decided to take out the Congregator of Flesh in style. Yeah, take that, you son of a bitch. With that abomination taken care of, I make a quick pit stop at Skyrest Bridge to get both my sword and catalyst up to +3. I get my Radiance level to 31, and then I make my way to the Poison Swamp, where I take on the Mendacious Visage. With that mini boss taken care of, it was time to take on the real boss of the area, the Hushed Saint. And that is some pretty solid damage. Like, wow. I did get hit a few more times than I would have liked to during the fight, but other than that, we really did just destroy the Hush Saint, like, damn. And you know what? It's only going to get better from here, which is super exciting. The Hush Saint taken care of, I make my way to Fitzroy's Gorge where I pick up the first cracked rune tablet and a few regular Duralium nuggets. And then it was time for me to take on the Ruiner. Okay, the fact that I hit his shield and still did like 200 something damage, that's insane. And even more insane was the damage we did to the Ruiner's soul. Damn! I was able to proc smite towards the end of the fight, which left the Ruiner weaker to my holy damage for a few seconds, and with a few more strikes, I ruined the Ruiner's day. Seeing that damage was awesome. With the upgrade materials I collected earlier, I was able to get my sword up to +5 and my catalyst up to +4, and I socketed a rune to my sword that increased the radiant scaling. I got my radiance level to 38, and then I journeyed into Lower Calrath. I used a fire ward so I'm more resistant to fire damage, and then it was time for me to take on the Infernal Enchantress. And oh my lord, that damage is unbelievable. Damn! With a few more strikes from my holy lightsaber, the Infernal Enchantress goes down, and then I speedrun my way over to the Spurned Progeny. He really does look just like me. With the Spurned Progeny defeated, I get my Radiance level up to 44, and then I pick up the second rune tablet. I then speedrun my way through the Sunless Skein until it was time to take on the Skin Stealer. I apologize that I don't really show the Sunless Skein too much in my runs. There's not really a whole lot going on until we get to the boss, so... Now, I'm not gonna lie, the damage was pretty solid, but I was expecting the damage to be a bit better, but the damage we did to the Skin Stealer's soul was pretty good. Now, I do get sent to Umbral during this fight, but that was okay with me, because after defeating the Skin Stealer, I make my way to the trio of Reapers and challenge all of them to a fight.
Trying hard, but you wanna be my friend. In a place to hide and you wanna run to. Here we go again. Call my bluff, I'ma be here till the end.
Now, the Reapers are pretty weak to holy damage, and with one more final holy Grand Slam, this trio goes down. And with those Reapers defeated, I make my way into the Revelation Depths. Now, as it usually goes, there are a lot of upgrade materials down here, so I spent some time picking up as many as I could.
I can help you out. I can help you out. I can help
with all the materials I had gathered, I upgraded my sword up to +7. And then it was time to take on the Pledge Knight. And not surprisingly, the damage was pretty good. I do wish we were able to proc Smite a bit more in the fight, but this Pledge Knight was once a part of the Hollow Sentinel, so I think because of that she has a bit of holy resistance. But either way, the damage was still pretty good. I actually struggled a good bit during this fight, and it did take me a few attempts. I think my biggest issue was, besides not being able to dodge when I should be able to dodge, most of my levels went into Radiance, and obviously because of that I didn't have much levels into health, so a lot of attacks were doing a lot more damage than they would have been if I had leveled up health a bit more. But that's all pretty obvious stuff. So like I said, in the first phase our damage was pretty good, and in this phase it wasn't bad, but there was definitely a decrease in our damage output. However, I still used the Pieta's reflection spell whenever I could, and it still did a very good chunk of damage. So I'm glad that spell was at least pretty consistent in dealing out good damage. I think our damage would have been a lot better if I put on either Holy Salts or Smite Salts on my weapon. The problem is, and I should know this because I've had a lot of time in this game and I haven't tested it out for some reason, I don't put salts, I don't put any like resins or salts on this weapon, and I think it's because of the way it looks, because it's like basically pure holy energy and it only deals holy damage. It just like, it seems wrong to put any sort of like salts on it, and I feel like because of that our damage is still really good, but I feel like it could have been better if I had applied said salts onto the weapon beforehand. However, we were finally able to proc a smite, which was pretty awesome. Now, like I said before, this fight did take me a few tries, but finally, the unbroken promise gets broken. With that boss taken care of, I speedrun my way through a few from Chill Curse, killing this boss and cleansing the beacon. Then, as I make my way towards the Leproseume, I pick up the Lucent Sword Ring, which is a ring that increases my damage when I'm at full health. And once I arrive at the Leproseume, I get my Radiance level up to 64. I then travel back to Skyrat's Bridge, where I give the final rune tablet to Sparky instead of Gerlinda, because Gerlinda is such a bitch. And after getting my holy sword up to +10, it was time to take on Tancred, Master of Castinations. Now this time around, Tancred got a lot more hits on me than I would have wished, and he even sent me into Umbral, which was pretty surprising, because I don't get sent into Umbral that often when I'm fighting Tancred, so I don't know what was going on with me, but I was just not playing at my best. But something that was at its best was the damage. The damage was really good. With another Holy Ground Slam, it was time for Phase 2, and the damage in this phase was even better than it was in the first phase. I was able to proc a smite, and just a few moments later I was able to stagger this abomination again, and the repost did a lot of damage. And it took only one more Holy Ground Slam for this boss to go down. I cleansed the beacon of the area before moving on to the Abbey of the Hollow Sisters, where I come across Stunmond, and I buy from him the Orion Sorcerer's Ring, which increases my holy damage. And after grabbing the Rune of Adira, I make my way into the Empyrean, where I take on Judge Cleric. And because she is a Radiant boss, I was expecting our damage to be kinda like mediocre, but as you can see, that is definitely not the case, because our damage is insane. Now Phase 1 was honestly incredibly easy, and it wasn't long until we got into Phase 2. Now because we're fighting the corrupted Judge Cleric, she does fire damage, and so she was a lot weaker to holy damage. And I mean, you can clearly see the damage is just so nuts. And I was pretty good with the parries this time around, and so it doesn't take super long to break her posture. And after the Grievous Strike, she goes down. And with the judge defeated, I can now cleanse the beacon. I make a quick pit stop at Skyrim's Bridge to get my radiance up to 75, and then I make my way into Upper Calrath, where after cleansing the beacon, I take on the Light Reaper. And the damage we were dishing out was just insane. Really, like, look at that. Just so crazy. And I did realize that you can in fact put smite salts on this sword, so I made sure to put some on during phase 2, and the damage just, oh my god, it was so satisfying. And the fight too was like insanely short. I think this battle clocked in at like 2 minutes. Just mind-blowingly great damage. So fun. After the fight, I get a few more points into Radiance and Vitality. And then I journey into the spooky Abramus Castle. Now, because I have my weapon upgraded to plus 10, there's not really anything for me to do here, so I just kind of speedrun my way through this castle until it was time to take on King Bramus. Now, I remember in my Radiance only run I did a while back, we did really good damage to King Bramus, and it was the same story here. We were just melting him. We didn't get as much smite procs in this fight compared to the Radiance only run, but still, like, the damage just insane. Now I did something really cool here, and I was able to jump over the Sundered Monarch's grab with my special attack, which was awesome. And it only took a few more Holy Slashes for this king to be dethroned. And with King Bramus out of the picture, it was time to take on the final boss of this run, a deer. Now that fight was absolutely insane. We did a crazy ton of damage. And that concludes my Pieta run in Lords of the Fallen. I thought this run was really good. Like I said in the beginning of this run, Pieta's sword is really overpowered, and it did take like a tiny bit longer to get to that overpowered state than I initially thought. But like, overall, it was really good. Even against holy-based enemies, it did a ton of damage, and it was a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day or night or whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.